Welcome back, friends. This is Eric Kirea, your friend and companion. We agreed that you can call me that. I want to remind us on part 2 of what we began in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 24. The scripture says, "One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother." This is part 2 of the same scripture that we discussed a little bit earlier. I come back with part 2 of the same. And on this, I'll rely mainly on a book that I have read written by someone by the name Jeff Wickwire. The title of the book is Friendships, Avoiding the Ones That Hurt, Finding the Ones That Heal. According to Wickwire, he categorizes 4 levels of friends. There is a level that he calls the acquaintances. The second level are the casual friends. The third level is close friends. And the fourth level is that of the intimate friendships. Let's begin with an acquaintance. When you look at the definition of an acquaintance, according to Cambridge Dictionary, I quote, "An acquaintance is a person you know slightly, but with whom you do not share the emotional intimacy, trust, or mutual obligations of a close friendship." End of quote. Uh, it, these people, we encounter them each and every day of our lives when we are running our main activities. Probably you are in a matatu. If, for example, you're here in Kenya, or you are on a metro, if you're somewhere in Europe, and you meet someone who is sitting next to you. And out of that, a conversation begins, and you become acquaintances. You become like new friends, friends that do not know each other, but there is no emotional or intimacy with that person. It's also a person that you cannot easily trust because this is a person that you have just met. So you could call each other friends. You could even greet each other as "How are you, my friend?" and "Bye, my friend," and "See you again, my friend." So that word, my friend, can easily be misused. But then when we use this one, an acquaintance, that type of friendship makes sense. The next level of friendship, according to Wickwire, is the friendship that develops from an acquaintance to a casual. Um, this word casual is commonly used in very many places. For example, in a place of work, you'll hear of somebody being called a casual worker. If you are Another example, if you're going to a place that is not very formal, you'll hear people saying, "Please do not come with formal clothes, just do some casual wear." Um, Another example is, "We are just casual friends," just to go back to our topic of the day. So this kind of casual friendship, according to Wickware, is based on some common interest, some activities that are very short in nature. This kind of friendship is not very formal. It relies on a short period because of something that you're doing that is as common interest, or probably you're going for a meeting and you there is that casuality of things without necessarily formalizing it, without necessarily having some rules that guides it. So it is very casual, it is very short-lived. In other words, it is more of relaxed, it is very informal, it just occurs by chance, and it has no deep commitment. So this kind of friendship uh, has no commitment that follows it. There is no much expectation from either side because it's a form of friendship that is very short. At that level of friendship is what Wickwire calls close friendship. A close friendship is a graduation from an acquaintance and casual. Some relationships have begun to develop. Some form of trust have started to develop. In a close friendship, there exists a far greater level of transparency and trust, according to Wickwire. So some level of trust begins to build in this kind of uh, friendship. The walls that you had created, maybe when you met someone for the first time, and then you happen to meet this person for a second time, there is that wall, the superficial wall that you may have created or that may have existed. When it gets to the level of close friendship, these superficial walls begins to melt down, and you kind of start opening up to this friend. Some conversations that are a little bit deeper begins to develop. You start sharing about your family. You can share about your children. This friend becomes someone that you can run to. Maybe when you're in trouble with your bosses, you can run to this close friend. Even he or she may not necessarily be a person that you're working with in the same organization, or he or she may not be a person that you go to church with. But somehow, because of your day-to-day interactions, then you find yourself having some close friendship with him or her. You're able to trust this person. You, when you find yourself having some temptations, this could be the person that you can open yourself to. When your marriage is in trouble or has issues, there's a person probably you can open to. And it's important for me to mention this. A close friend doesn't have to be necessarily a person with a position, with an office. A close friend doesn't have to be necessarily to be your pastor, doesn't have to be necessarily your boss, your big brother, your big sister. A close friends could be from any angle, without even these are people with it's like a CAs without let me not go into politics. uh, these are people who do not hold, may not necessarily hold any position, but at the end of the day they are still your friends. uh, Wickwire, if I quote him, this is what he says: without close friendships, the world can be very cold and a lonely place to live in. And that is what I began in part one, if you remember, when I was talking about some little bit of contradictions that seems to be in that scripture. The scripture seems to be telling us that the people who lack friends uh, may find it very hard to exist in this world. But also the scripture also seems to be telling us, but even the friends that you have to be very careful with them, because they could also easily ruin your future, especially if these friends are not reliable. But then I also added and said that a friend, there is still hope in all this, because there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And remember what we said about the kind of relationships that we have with our brothers. So what am I trying to say? When it comes to close friendship, this is where most of us are, that we have someone that we can trust. We have someone that we can run to. We have someone that we are always looking up to interact with, because this is where we pour ourselves. But also, it is the same place where most betrayals takes place, unfortunately. Um, you may have gone to a certain level, but then you, in the course of the time, because people tend to change, you realize that there is some jealousy that is taking place. Let me continue shortly after this.